Welcome. And we are going to record this. So if any of you want to get the recording, just let me know afterwards and I can send it to you. But what you will need to do is I'll give you where to get a hold of me right now. And then you can contact me there if you want the recording of this. So you can text me. I love texting. Texting is very easy. It's my first go-to. So I'm at 604-655-4698. So you can text me. And if you have any questions or what have you, if you want to be able to reach me through email, but also it's just a really easy form of communication for me, particularly if you want to know when the next lecture is or when this is happening again, because you think that your mom should join or your sister should join or your partner should join or what have you. Probably the easiest thing, I don't blast out a lot of emails. I obviously teach the brain. I try not to flood everybody's. So basically I send 2 emails a month, just giving the information on any events that I'm going to be at, and then any of the complimentary lectures. So if you go to debdrummond.com, super easy, D-E-B, Drummond, D-R-U-M-M-O-N-D, which is my name, .com, you can just sign up for the newsletter. And the newsletter will just send you 2 emails a month, and that'll just give you dates and times, and you can register that way. So you don't always have to go on to Eventbrite or what have you, but you can register that way, and it'll give you just the Eventbrite link. And you can go there, and then you can also go and see other lectures. I'm really open. I have about 40 lectures on the site that people can choose from. And I had someone that said, oh, hey, I'd love to hear this meditation. So we did a success in business meditation, I think a week ago. So I'm cool to teach whatever I teach to whoever needs to teach it. I always believe that everybody's here for a reason. And so I think collectively we're here for a reason. And please feel free to share this information. I don't keep it to myself. Any information I share is for you to share. And even moving the needle just one thing, like it was great. I was on a Facebook this morning or this afternoon with Caroline, who happens to be on. And I had been in Montreal. I live in Vancouver, and I flew to Montreal to teach a brain health seminar in a gym. And her daughter came, and her daughter, I think, was 10 at the time. And she listened to my brain health seminar, and now her daughter doesn't eat M&Ms. So, she took one thing, she took one thing from that seminar and injected it into her life. So I'm going to make it really simple. I'm going to make it really fun. I'm going to make it really relaxed. It's not going to be all theory and science. It's just going to be very easy, adaptable things that you can do for your brain. I'm going to tell you a little bit why. If you don't know who I am, I've been in the health field for over 30 years. I believe this is where I'm supposed to be, sharing kind of information and making a change in people's lives from a health and wellness perspective. I've been gifting these lectures and meditations since we had this little world shift, because I think we all need a wellness break. And that's why just feel free if you want to, say that you're coming. I always do them anyways. And if life's just kind of a little heavy at that day or time, then that's fine. Just ask for the recording or come to the next one. So the reason why, I've really been excited about the brain for a long time. I know some people collect stamps and I know some people, collect gemstones, or some people do things. I really am quite fascinated with health. And I've been fixated on the brain for a long time. So I studied quite a bit for about 12 and a half years. It started with having people very close to me in my life that had learning challenges. And that was my first venture into studying about the brain. And then, of course, being in the health and wellness sector, I just dug and started to look for solutions at a time many, many years ago where there wasn't a whole lot of solutions. So I started to learn a lot more about the brain other than just learning challenges. And one of the things that I found incredibly alarming, I won't say it was exciting, but alarming enough that I felt, wow, people really don't know this information. And why should people care about the brain? And really, we don't ever really learn a whole lot about the brain because the brain's on the inside. People that have had concussions, have had experiences with the brain. But other than that, we don't talk about the brain, and we certainly don't talk about the brain aging. We just, as a culture and society, have accepted that as we get older, our brain will start to, for the most part, people say, not work as well, right? My memory's not as good. Also, brain health is kind of one of those things that people keep to themselves. They don't really hang out with their buddies and go, yeah, hey, what's going on? Oh man, I'm kind of concerned about my brain. Like people tend to keep that to themselves, right? They could be walking into the garage and they're like, they went in there for a tool or something or garbage bags or whatever, and they just don't remember why they're there. Or they walk into the kitchen, or they can't find their scissors, or they can't find their keys over and over and over again, or their phone, and they're creating little systems for themselves. Like, I'll always put my keys here, and I'll always put my wallet here. And we do things to help our brain along with this subconscious understanding that as we get older, that's just the way it is. But that's not the truth. The truth is your brain is an organ. And you can age reversal your brain, just like you can age reversal your skin, your body, your hair. There's all sorts of things you can age reversal. And I'll talk a little bit about the stuff that I do to do age reversal. What I used to do and what I add now. So I'm going to give you two kind of formulas. I am a supplement person. I do believe in supplements, but there's some things that you can do, just average everyday stuff, just shifting what you do and shifting what you think, that's going to help. And anything that you do is going to move the needle on your brain health. So first of all, I want to just explain to you that you have this brain inside. It's an organ, right? It has a life of its own. And also the inside of your skull is not the same as the outside of your skull. So if you fell off your bike when you were 8, or you fell off a trampoline, or you were in a car accident, or you did, bounce a ball off, your prefrontal cortex here playing soccer all through high school. And I tell you this next statement, you're going to go, oh, damn. Because you have these ridges on the inside of your head. And so as your brain, which is about the same texture as tofu, is hitting these edges, that's why someone's personality can change after trauma. And I'm not just talking about physical trauma, also emotional trauma. But from a physicality standpoint, you've seen kids fall off their bike, or someone have a car accident, and they're not the same. They could have anger flare-ups. They could be depressed. They could feel, just simple sadness. They could cry a lot for no reason. There's just a shift as the brain is trying to heal itself, all right? So you want to care about your brain because you want to have optimum health, and you want to have optimum memory, concentration, focus, clarity, and brain stamina. And let me explain that. So memory, we kind of all understand memory, right? It's like remembering a phone number, remembering we have an appointment, your memory. Okay, short-term and long-term memory. Focus is being able to concentrate on one thing without having distraction. Now, technology has served us very well in some ways and not in others. And so around 2016, studies showed us that we had anywhere from 11 to 13 seconds attention span. Now you know why commercials are really loud and really fast, because we don't have a long attention span. To the point that now that we actually dismiss commercials a lot, they actually are allowed to be louder. You ever notice that commercials are louder than your TV? Because they are legally now allowed to be louder because we've denullified, oh, it's a commercial, and they need to catch your attention. So 11 to 13 seconds. So due to technology and the fact that we're on technology and what's happening in the brain because of that, and this little quick thing and this text thing here, and gaming, okay, not so great for the brain. It's very addictive for the brain. We actually, from 2016 to now, which is not a long time, right? It's not a long time, 4 years-ish. We've actually dropped our attention span down to 8 seconds. And just so you know, a goldfish has 9 seconds. So we actually have less attention span than a goldfish. So if you're wondering why you can't focus or why you can't concentrate, and that actually starts to decline as we get older. So there's memory, there's concentration, being able to hold on to an idea, conceptualize it, and hold it in our brain for a long period of time. Brain stamina is a big one. And I always use this as an example. So people are like, brain stamina, what do you mean? Like brain stamina? I'm like, being able to endure stamina, having stamina, being able to endure what you used to be able to endure in your 20s, the same as in your 40s, 45s, 50s, and 60s. And here's a prime example. So depending on your parents, you might have in your late teens or 20s, stayed up all night studying or stayed up all night partying. I don't know which. But, you could stay up, you could, go to bed late, get up early, eat crap food, blah, 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 blah. And you could get up and go to work just fine on Monday and work all week, stay up, go out, go to the pub, go here, go play hockey, do all that. And you had stamina. You could go to a concert at 10 o'clock at night and, you know, stay to the end. And as you start to get older, you're like, oh, you know, it's been 2 hours. I don't know how much longer they're going to go. You know, you don't have the same capacity for the same amount of stress that you did when you were younger. That's brain stamina. So when you wake up, you should actually feel exhilarated. When you wake up, you should have enough brain energy and stamina to like be up and go, right? And to sustain that energy all day. That's what brain stamina and energy is. And you can have that back. So that was a big piece to why I got into brain health. The other one is the startling numbers around Alzheimer's and dementia and what we call, you know, the loss of neuronal integrity. And so 75 to 85 in a North American culture, 50% of people over 85 will be diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So better to take care of your brain now, right? So that's a very large number. And unfortunately, when it comes to Alzheimer's, most diagnoses don't happen until that person has had the disease for 25 to 40 years. So now you're really fighting, you know, you're fighting the battle uphill, right? So that was one of the things that was quite startling to me and made me think even more about what I wanted to do for my brain. Because of course I was studying for other people's brains. So I really wanted to get into that. And so I want to explain something to you. And this is about as science as we're going to get. And then we're going to get into the fun stuff of learning about brain health. We're going to get into the solution stuff and the prevention stuff. Because no matter how old you are, I mean, I'm 55 years old. I'm doing things for my brain now for a prevention, from a prevention standpoint. So correct, prevent. Okay. So you have something called microtubulars in your brain. And these are like the charging cord to your phone. So I'm on my phone right now, okay? And my phone has a battery. And I need to charge that battery so that battery can make this phone work. Same kind of thing. So you have a microtubular. That tube is the charging cord to your neurons. So you have this tube and it has these neurons. And these neurons have to be charged by that tube and transmit, because they don't connect, transmit to other neurons that are connected to a tubular. So you've got neurons, and they have to transmit, right? So they have to communicate between each other. So they got to be really charged. Problem, at 21 years old, when we're still damaging our brains, those microtubulars all by themselves are starting to age. So the battery's starting to die and they're starting to unravel. And if you've ever heard that saying, you know, that guy's kind of shooting on one cylinder, it's because one cylinder is shooting and the other one's like, bye-bye, Sally, I'm gone. Because the microtubular is not charging it strong enough. And this continues to unravel. The older we get, the older we get. Now you add age, you add some trauma, you add some physicality, maybe a car accident, you add a divorce, you know, grief, you add illness, whatever, it's going to just exasperate it. And it just goes like this, okay? Now, our scientists are Princeton University scientists, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about something, the only thing that I've ever found that has actually been able to stop the unraveling. But the information that I got, Dr. Jeffrey and Maxwell Stock from Princeton, they were looking for something that would actually stop that unraveling. That's really important. The things that I'm going to tell you that you can do on your own are going to help that not go on so quickly, and other parts of the brain as well. But there's an extract in the green coffee bean, I'll show you when I finish talking, that actually helps in this arena. So the unraveling of this microtubular that's making it less potent per se, the only thing I've ever read or heard to date is if tau protein, so when you take, there's something called EHT, and I'll show you later, but when you take EHT, it activates an enzyme in the brain called PP2A. Some people have heard of PP2A, it's your gene expression. So PP2A will go down to that tube and it will coat it. It will coat it in something called tau protein. Now, no matter how unraveled it is, it will code it and bring it back to its strongest form. So even if there was a neuron that was trying to charge that was completely dead, gone, it will actually reinvigorate and charge it. So that's been pretty phenomenal. From, like I said, I'm a supplement person and I'm also a prevention person. So let's talk a little bit about that. People say outside of, Alzheimer's, people are like, so why should I take care of my brain? Because it's aging like the rest of you. And some people are like, well, I don't care if I age. But really, we know we feel different when our brain feels different. If you've been around on the planet for a little while, you know that your brain feels different. It literally can make a difference in all area of your life. It does. It makes a difference in how you can perform at work. It makes a difference in terms if you are the boss, how you're treating and working with your employees. It definitely makes you a better parent. Having a healthy, strong brain that's not being, drained. Last night at 10 o'clock at night or 10:30, my son wanted me to help him with some online homework. I haven't done online homework for a very long time, people. Okay. And I was like, it was 10:30 at the end of the night. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. We had to watch a video together and do some stuff. It makes you a better parent. It makes you a happier parent. It gives you a happier brain. It actually affects everything. And I don't want to go into all the studies. It affects everything from your sexuality, from your financial ability, from how you can have interpersonal relationships, and how you actually feel yourself. Fatigue is a really big one. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit here. I kind of did a little stop in my note to just really remind ourselves. And one of the reasons why I'm actually talking about brain health at least once a month is because, look, we've had a world shift. And for some of us, we're still very much in that world shift. And that world shift that we've just been gone through and are going through has been one of the thing that is taxed the most from a physical standpoint is mental health, right? So we know right now, just in the last 90 days, depression is way up on the rise, right? Way up on the rise. Challenging. Families have been in the same room, in the same house, learning all sorts of things. Parents are like doing what I did last night. Jobs have lost, jobs have doubled in responsibility. Some people are working twice as much. Some people aren't working at all. It's very hard. It's very hard to take information from the brain and digest it. And I'm going to tell you why our brains are really overworked right now, even as in the country that I'm in, because I know that there's people that are going to listen to this that are not in North America, and every country is at a different stage of things. Even though things are starting to open up, that within itself is causing more stress for the brain. So it was one thing to get used to what was going on, listening to the information. Now as things are going up, it's a new stress. It's like, well, should I? Should I have gone to my massage therapy appointment today? I don't know. Should I go eat? I don't know. What do you think? What do you need? Are you ready? Like, there's still a large level of undercurrent anxiety. If you are someone that loves to watch the TV or stay on top of the news, you're not going to like this next thing that I have to say. Because when you see something on the news that is not a positive input, right? And it's fine. You know what? I used to watch the news every night, and I used to come home, watch the news at 11 o'clock and watch Jay Leno. That's how old I am. I actually remember Johnny Carson. Okay. So I used to watch it, but here's the thing. If you take something in negative from your brain standpoint, it will continue to run in your brain for 30 hours. So when this all first hit and we're watching the news at midday and we're watching the news at night and people are talking and it's social media and it's all part of your conversations and it's all this, the brain is working so hard. The brain is still working so hard and it's actually deflating. It's been a very big mental health, which is why they've had helpline for kids and helpline for adults and all sorts of things that are going on. So not only do we have this average everyday stuff that's going on for our brain, so all I can tell you, in terms of what would be the solution to that. So the solution to that would really be your own choice around how much you choose to listen to what's going on in the world. Now, for me, I had to make a decision very quickly. I'm like, okay, I made a decision 6 years ago around watching the news and how much and what I do and how I don't. And so for me, I want to take in as much positive information as possible. So I chose every 2 days for the first 20 minutes because the most important stuff comes out in the first chunk. And then you start to listen to stories and what have you. I'm like, I can take 20 minutes every 2 days. And even in conversations with people when they're like, hey, and it was the first thing that we were talking about. I'm like, you know what? Hey, I'm just in the middle of work, or hey, let's talk about this, or because every conversation was taking an extra half an hour because we were talking about this thing that we're going through. And now there's also, another thing that's just kind of erupted in the US that's getting very world spread attention. I'm not saying they're bad and I'm not saying they're good. I'm just saying, how much are you taking in? Because it really does tax you. I talked to a colleague last night who's in my field. She said, oh man, I cried 9 times today. I'm like, why? Why'd you cry 9 times? And she said, oh, I'm really caught up in what's gone on, with the gentleman in the US. And I'm like, you're not doing yourself or anyone any favor in that point. You've got to really inject some positivity. So I guess I'm talking to her later tonight. So some of the things that affect your brain, and this can be past or it can be current, right? So I talk about partying. So drugs, alcohol, staying up late, that kind of thing, stress, emotional trauma, divorce, loss, no sleep. Sleep's a big one for the brain, and I'll talk about that. Injuries, all of those, whether they happen in the past or whether they're very recent, will have impact, okay? So as we get older, we start to pay more attention to our health. So if we've mistreated our brain, then that's okay. I have good news. You can recover and you can retrain and you can heal your brain. You can change your brain. It's awesome. So I believe that. So let's talk about some of the things that you can do, right? So now I've kind of given you all that information. Let's talk about some of the things that you can do. You've heard your whole life probably to eat healthy. Well, when it comes to your brain, that's very important because sugar and brains don't go together. It's actually a really strong enemy for the brain, okay? And when it comes to the brain, I want to tell people in relationship to how you feed it is, imagine you're $1 million racehorse. You're a thoroughbred, everything relies on that thoroughbred. It's like you want that thoroughbred to win. You've paid for the best jockey, you have the best care, and you would never think of taking that thoroughbred to Starbucks and getting a double frap with whipped cream and caramel and spark, stuff on top. Okay. So, or going to, Tim Hortons, getting a double with a glazed donut. You got to think of your brain as the brain of a thoroughbred. So sugar is really the enemy. And I'll tell you, 30 pounds, if you are up to 30 pounds overweight, you're 30 pounds overweight, your brain is starting to shrink actually literally in size. Mood is also very elevated in relationship to food, sugar, and the brain. So it makes a big difference. Like 70% of people in the US that actually sign up to go into the services are turned down due to physical health or mental health. And sugar and bad eating, like I always say, bad food, bad mood. Bad food, bad mood. Just think of it that way in relationship to your brain. You're probably going to think, oh, my daughter always says, if you ever want to have someone ruin all your fun, just go listen to one of my mom's lectures. So 50 million people in the US have formally been diagnosed with depression. And I'm not saying that food cures depression. I'm not here as a medical doctor to tell you that. I'm telling you that eating healthy helps your mood extensively. Because 20 to 60% of those people that have been diagnosed with depression are on medication. So really taking care to what you're actually putting into your body. One of the things I like to talk about in relationship to food is gluten. So if you want more information on this, you can go to YouTube and listen to a doctor that has written something called the brain grain, because his belief and his work shows around inflammation of the brain is related to Alzheimer's. And they believe gluten is an inflammagen. So when you eat gluten, the reason why a lot of people have gone gluten-free is not only because they're celiacs or they have, they have a lot of inflammation in their body or they're catching the latest trend, is that gluten creates inflammation in the body. And we know that 80% of disease is aggravated and 80% of disease is correlated to too much inflammation. And so I've been gluten-free since I was 27, so almost 30 years. And that was because I had a health condition and I thank goodness. There was probably the only naturopath I'd ever even knew what a naturopath was. And the first thing that he got me off was gluten. And after a year of being off gluten, I felt like $1 million. I had never felt like that. It was like clear as a bell, clear as a bell. So it will really help with your clarity. Okay. So that's on that. And then the other things in terms of alcohol. So I'm not saying to not drink. That's not what I'm here to do, but I'm just here to tell you that alcohol does the same thing. 2 glasses a week will actually shrink your brain. 2 glasses a week, upwards of 30% of your brain will shrink with alcohol. So you can imagine if people are having a couple glasses of wine, couple glasses of wine, couple glasses of wine, you know, people say it's good for an antioxidant, whatever, but the more you drink, the more it actually shrinks your brain. It's not good for your brain. Okay, so a healthy diet will increase your mental health. A healthy diet will increase your mental health by 42%. That's a big number, right? That's a big number. Okay, from an exercise standpoint, from a brain standpoint, men having a good exercise workout. Now, I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about weight loss. I'm talking about for your brain, 1 to 2 good workouts a week. And unfortunately for women, it's 4 to 5. So I don't know why it's not fair, but it's not fair, right? Okay. A couple of other things around brains is you've probably heard that your gut, and maybe you haven't, you know, people talk about gut health and having a leaky gut, and that you want to have a very healthy gut when it comes to your brain. And the reason why people don't know is that the gut and the brain actually broke off from the same cell. So how you treat your gut's going to affect your brain. So you want to keep your gut healthy. I'm going to talk a little bit now about pre and probiotics, because you have a flora of your gut lining. And if you don't keep it healthy, you can have leaky gut. So nutrition is leaking. You can have digestion issues. And digestion is really the core of your body. Bloating, things don't assimilate well. And that affects the fogginess of your brain, right? Brain fog, that was one of the things when I first took EHT, and I said I would show you what it looks like. But when I first started taking EHT, it's just like it's a tablet that you take in the morning. That was the Princeton University product. I had been taking care of my brain for 30 years. I was like, oh, I don't think anything's going to happen to me. I'll take it preventatively. And within 3.5 weeks, I woke up and I called a colleague, and I've never felt this competent. Like, I just felt game on. I never knew what it was like to have brain fog gone until it was gone, because it's so insidious. And that's what happens with a decline in brain health. You don't just wake up one day and go, oh my gosh. There's been kind of indicators, whether it's walking in the garage or walking in your home or not remembering this, or my God, if I lose my keys one more time, you know, or you wake up and you're not feeling bouncy, and the crazy is you just kind of come to accept that as part of life, or it must be from this, or I don't sleep well, or whatever it is. And you make excuses. I'm getting older. I don't sleep as much, but really it's not true. Okay. So, gut health. Now there's something called prebiotics and there's probiotics, and people used to take probiotics all the time. Now probiotics is to keep the flora of your gut healthy, again, for your brain. And so people took them for years. And then recent information in the last few years, it's become very well known that once the probiotics go into your gut, sometimes they don't even make it through the stomach acid. They need to multiply and duplicate and really clean the flora up of your gut. And so then you have to take prebiotics to feed the probiotics once they get down there. So I'm going to, again, show you a couple of things that I take to just map that all out. So I want to talk about sleep. So when you go to sleep at night, just imagine those, I don't know, what's that show where they have those little minions, right? Those little yellow people. I don't remember what show that was for my kid, but imagine they go in and they clean your brain. So when you sleep at night, your brain actually gets cleaned. Super important, right? So it's like a cleaning crew goes in. If people have sleep apnea, it actually triples the risk of someone having Alzheimer's. That's how important brain health and good sleep happens. And 70% of the world doesn't sleep well. for a couple of reasons. One is they can't seem to get to sleep. And if they do get to sleep, they can't stay asleep. They're not getting into that REM state. So 70% of the world doesn't sleep well. That's usually due to the fact that their circadian rhythm has been knocked off rhythm. And your circadian rhythm stays in check in your body when you wake up at light and go to bed at dark, which would mean sometimes we're getting up at 5 in the morning and going to bed at 5 o'clock at night. Now, we know we live in a modernized world, and that's not happening. I mean, I'm watching Jay Leno or whatever it is, right? So we know these little units right here, people are like, ooh, it's on Facebook, ooh, Instagram, or whatever it is, right? So we stay up past our circadian rhythm. So we need to get them back into check. And there's something called Certiplex if people want to get that circadian rhythm back in check. Because what happens is when you get them back in check, it's just a little chew that you take at night. It's an Ayurvedic product. It's a little chew, and you take it at night. Within 15 to 30 minutes, you're asleep, you're sound, you're good. It's natural. It's a natural product, and you sleep soundly through the night, and you wake up refreshed. And then there's an energy chew you take in the morning. It's not a pop-up stimulant. It's not like, you can still do your coffee, you can still whatever it is that you do, but this gives you a restorative brain function and body function all day. It's really for the brain and the body. There's one that's just for the brain, but this is brain and body. And what it does is eventually gives you restorative, it's like rejuvenation, restoration, rejuvenative, restoration. And that's where you want to be. So for people that really want to have that really good sleep, then I suggest that you try this Certiplex. It just really helps you get into that rhythm. So the last thing that I want to talk about before I kind of tell you a few other things, I kind of keep, there's one I keep to the very end because I'm never everyone's friend when I talk about the last two things I'm going to talk about. But music is very good for the brain, and so is comedy. So I'll just share with you what I do. There's many things that you can do, but self-care for the brain is critical. And we all hear it. We're like, hey, oh my gosh, I need a massage, go take care of myself. People are like, what's this meditation stuff about? It really helps the brain, not only neurologically or neuronally firing, coming alive, cleaning up, doing its own sweeping, but it actually kicks off happy, right? Happy endorphins. It makes you feel happy. It makes you feel better. It gives you a natural sense of energy to want to do things that maybe you haven't wanted to do before. Sleeping is a big part of that. But here's some things that you can do. Self-care is different for everybody. So meditation, chanting. So chanting, laughing. Laughing is such a big deal for the body and such a big deal for the brain that actually in India, they get together and they have almost like a laughing class. They will have someone stand at the front of the class, and honestly, it looks ridiculous when you look at them. You're like, that is the most ridiculous thing. I would never do it. It was like, for me, it would be like, oh my gosh, I'd be so embarrassed. But I'm telling you, it catches on. When you're at a comedy show and someone starts laughing and you start laughing just because they're laughing, it's the same kind of thing. Laughing is so good for the brain. So what I've been doing, particularly because, we've been at home, some of us have been working, some people have not been working. I've been working at home. I have this great little unit here. I'll be like, okay, once a day for sure. Actually, before I did this presentation, because I had a big day and I'm like, oh man, I want to have a couple of laughs. I pull live comedy up on YouTube and I laugh my face off. I've been addicted to Sykes. That chick is super funny, right? And there's another one, Sebastian, and this English guy, Michael something in England. So I watch live comedy. It just keeps your brain happy. It also keeps you young. Laughing keeps you young. Some people like to journal and write. So journaling is a great way to get your stress out of your head onto the paper. And it literally does that. It literally does. When you write it out, it's almost like you see it leave your body and you feel it leave your body. Journaling is a very powerful thing. Some people love to talk, right? So if you're a talker and you feel better after you've talked, then you know what? Calling a friend, like having those people that you can call and just go, hey, you know what? I'm not looking for advice. I just need to dump. I have a friend like that. And I just call and I'm like, hey, I just need to, so you just you feel better. They're like, hey, that's cool. You do the same thing for them. But self-care is so important, whether it comes in the form of exercise. But I cannot tell you enough how laughing and listening to music. Now I vary my music. I've listened to I don't know. Now I'm a little bit of a music addict. So I listen to music maybe 10 times a day. I specifically, while I'm getting ready, you know, in the morning, putting my makeup on or brushing my teeth, when I'm in the shower, I actually have a speaker. So I put my music on speakers, and it can range whatever I feel like I need. Sometimes I listen to country. I'm a country girl. I love country. Sometimes I listen to gospel. Sometimes I listen to AC/DC. Sometimes I listen to, you know, the Canadian tenors. I listen to opera. Whatever your jam is, it doesn't really matter. But music starts to line things up in your brain neuronally. It's happy, happy, joy, joy. Okay? Happy, happy, joy, joy. And the last two things that I want to talk about before I get into some of the solutions is sports. So I'm going to tell you the sport that is the least favorite for the brain. I don't think I need to tell you. You probably have figured it out yourself. Anything that is, you know, prone concussion, yeah, not so good, right? So soccer, particularly if, you know, they're bouncing the ball off the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal cortex is this piece in the front of the brain. And this prefrontal cortex does not fully develop in women till they're 25 and men till they're 27. So it's interesting. And what this prefrontal cortex is responsible for is good decision making. So if you made a bad decision, you know, under the age of 25 or 27, you're good. You're like, hey man, my brain was doing its own thing, right? It's funny. It's like, you know, we get our driver's license, we can legally drink, we can vote, and our brain isn't even fully developed enough to make a good decision yet. So you're off the hook up until that point. But so it's not developed. And so when you're hitting it with a soccer ball, not so good, or getting slammed into the side of the boards of hockey, or we all know about football. If you ever watch the movie Concussion, you'll really get an understanding. If you've had a concussion and you don't really understand the in-depths of concussion, that's a great movie to watch. And so now we have helmets, and there's been a whole revelation around brain health, but it's taken a very, very long time because that can really alter someone's mood. So those are the three most dangerous sports for your brain. If you do them, good on you. I'm not here to tell you to stop doing anything. I just want you to be enlightened. Now, as a brain health studying person, when my son's, you know, teacher said, hey, you know what, your son's showing really great skill in soccer, I'm like, oh, well, too bad. Right? And she didn't think I was the best parent at the time, but I was like, I'll just protect his brain. But the best overall exercise for the whole body, brain included, but the whole body, from a muscle, from a tone, from a cardio, from a less stress on your joints overall, is swimming. That's your best overall for all activity, but specifically for neuronal integrity, the best sports are racket sports. So tennis, squash, and ping pong. Ping pong is the #1 sport for neuronal integrity, for memory, concentration, focus, and clarity. It's ping pong. Right across the table. You know, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, I had friends when I was in high school, they had little table tennis and like, right? So ping pong's the best. When we talk about alcohol, just reducing our alcohol, because, you know, 2 times a day, you know, two drinks a day will equal a smaller brain. And then we get to the issue that people say about pot. Now, I don't have any judgment on what people do. I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to educate you. Alcohol will affect a certain part of the brain. Marijuana affects every single part of the brain. There is not a brain that is not negatively impacted from smoking pot. So if you used to smoke pot, you need to catch up and do something. And if you are smoking pot, you need to try to counter those effects on your brain as much as you can. So take into consideration all the things that I talked about from a solution standpoint. So, and I'm going to tell you now about some supplements that you can take. So I told you about the EHT. The EHT is a tablet. That's the tablet that I take in the morning that actually sends the tau protein down and repairs that microtubule. Now, I think I had shared with you, I'd been taking care of my brain for 30 years. I had never seen results like this. This is something that I've been on for 4 years. I could sit here for hours and tell you. The company that produces this product produces some other health products that I'm associated to tell you straight out. If there was one product that if they said we had to go down to one product, it would be EHT. So I can legally tell you it stops the loss of memory, concentration, focus, clarity, and brain stamina, the 5 main factors that I've been studying for a long time. So that's EHT. You just take it in the morning. It's like a vitamin for your brain, okay? It's a vitamin for your brain. And then when we talked about pre and probiotics to get your gut in order, that's this package here. And so I literally just rip it open and I put it underneath my tongue and I take it once in the morning. Now I happen to take 2 because I had, IBS throughout, many of my years of my life. And after taking 2, I'm down to like 90% of my symptoms are gone. So I use this not only to make sure that my flora is good, but I use it to control that. But for most people, you're just taking 1 and it keeps your gut super healthy. You're not losing your vitamins and minerals and you've balanced your flora. And that's awesome. And then there's another product that if people are interested in, I'm happy to send you some because I have some of these and I can pop them in the mail to you. So if anyone wants them, honestly, feel free. Just send me a message. It's called Youth Factor because it actually comes with a tablet that takes your cell, because our cells, like my cell is 55 years old. But we have something in that cell called a mitochondria. And that mitochondria is the lung of that cell. And so our cell is at least the same age as us. But if you have done some of those damaging things that I've talked about, that cell could be older than you are biologically. And so if you optimize the mitochondria, you will actually age reversal. And so my mitochondria, my cells are gauging between 36 and 43, and I'm 55 because I've been working with the mitochondria for a long time. And so this product cleans up the mitochondria, but it also puts your body into an alkaline state where disease cannot grow. So this one powder, you put it into water and you drink it, gives you all your fruit and vegetables for one day, assimilates into your cells super easy and super fast. So it optimizes your health. It's got 2 digestive enzymes. And so when I talked about the diet part of the brain health is that if you have some weight on you, something like this that cleans the digestion system in a very natural, healthy, normal way and cleans that out will create weight loss, but it'll also create a clean gut. We just finished talking about that. This also takes inflammation out of your body. And we just talked about how inflammation is an issue when it comes to brain fog and also how it acts in the brain. And inflammation in the body in general is not a good thing. And then it also puts your body into an alkaline state. And so just so you know, you always want your body in an alkaline state. And I'll just give you this very simple analogy. You have 2 petri dishes. One is alkaline and one is acidic. In an acid state body is where disease can grow. So you have acid and you got a petri dish, you can grow disease. But if you have alkaline in a petri dish, you cannot grow disease. Disease does not grow, which is why under these conditions right now, our company is doing 24 hours a day making this product because we're constantly selling out because people want a disease-free zone and they want to boost their immune system, and that's what this does. This is probably the most overall health product I've ever seen in my 30 years of being in the health profession. And it's easy. I hate sending people home with 8 things to do. Go get this, go get that, go get this, and go get that. So this is one thing and it's super easy. And so that's my personal recommendation from someone in the field. But from just a brain standpoint, everything that I listed is really important. Again, if sleep is your issue or not having sustained energy, you can talk to me. There's another product called, it's a Certiplex product, and it balances your circadian rhythm and you'll be sleeping soundly. But at the very least, looking at getting some EHT for your brain. So those are some things that you can take if you choose to, if you're a supplement person like I am. And then those are some things that you can do on your own. I believe in kind of doubling up your odds, particularly as we start to notice some things. And really, the new thing is living healthy. I've watched health and wellness go from me being called a hippie to, be called a professional hippie and asked to go speak on stages at, the Royal Bank and children's hospitals. And they're all like, hey, can you teach us what you know? And before, I think people thought I walked around in Birkenstocks or something, but that's it. That's all I have for you tonight. So if you enjoyed this, I hope you did. If you enjoyed it and took some notes down, please pass it on to anyone in terms of information. There's some other free lectures that I'm doing on natural anti-aging. And it's not just about making your skin look different. It's actually working even deeper in terms of aging to get your cells optimized. I do a natural weight loss lecture I'm doing this month as well. It's so people can lose weight naturally without having to just go eat grapefruits, and why you would want to do that, and some natural information on how to do that. And then I've got this really beautiful meditation. And then I think I'm also doing a success in business lecture as well. What to kind of do to get to the next level and in whatever it is that you want to achieve. So those are the kind of free gifts I'm doing this month. and you know where to reach me. And if you have any questions, let me know. And if you'd like some youth factor powder, I'm happy to send it. So with that, I will end off. You're welcome. Thank you. Someone put in the chat box, you're welcome.